What is up, everybody? Jester here, and today we're back in the long dark because, as many of you guys know, for me in the long dark, I'm on a pretty long Voyager run right now. We're now at 622 days, and one of my main focuses for this run was to collect these, the climbing ropes. We've taken so many from so many places. We are now up to 70 ropes. I mean, you heard me correctly. 70 ropes brought home. I don't even want to get into just how much weight that is moving back and forth. But the only reason we were able to get this high is because we do have the DLC, which means we have access now to Forsaken Airfield, Zone of Contamination, as well as Sundered Pass. And particularly in Sundered Pass, I had some issues, especially when doing Last Horizon, because we went back after Last Horizon with a bit of a different setup to get the ropes. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today is what makes you guys choose the gear that you're going to wear. Is it specifically region based? Is it all about warmth? Does anybody take into account the waterproofness or the defense? I'm just really curious, and this is kind of a I'm asking kind of video because I'm not the most experienced player. I do have over 1,000 hours in the game at this point, but I still consider myself to be pretty novice. And from what I found, I don't know why more people don't run this kind of setup, particularly in regions where you know you're going to have kind of weather that's just inconsistent at best, like Sundered Pass does. We got a lot to talk about today, so let's jump right into it. By and large, I don't really have any issues getting around Lower Great Bear in this particular setup. It's double wolf, double deer pant, deer boots, and then of course the rabbit gear. And that's going pretty eccentric into the actual crafted gear, but for me, 600 and some odd days in, this is pretty much renewable, and it's really nice to have these specifically on the outer layer. But they're just so much easier to repair, and at some point cloth really does become an issue. But this setup gets me around fine, even in storms. 30 degrees Celsius warmth bonus, 11 degree windproof bonus, 39% protection, and 43% sprint. And typically I walk around somewhere in the 34 to say 37 kilogram range, giving me a little bit of wiggle room to carry stuff back and forth, because I do like to have a little water and at least a few pieces of food on me when I travel. But that got me thinking, with Sundered Pass being just as weird weather patterns as it is, what can I actually do with crafted gear that's going to maybe make that a little more bearable, at least when it came to the coat, because we just don't have a lot of options when it comes to pants or boots or a hat or the mittens. And we're going to make a separate video on that at some point, kind of wish list stuff. But the one thing we can do is craft these different coats. You've got the bearskin coats, and I've seen a lot of the Interloper Pro saying this is a no-brainer here, go double bearskin, but that's pretty heavy. And then we also have the Moose Hide Cloak, which I have never really heard anybody talk about that much. And I found some things in it that I think are kind of useful. But to figure out, you know, what the best is going to be, we need to kind of look at it as a weight to warmth to protection type of thing. So let's try all these different ones on and see what we get. For the sake of transparency, I wanted to show you guys that I have taken the time to go ahead and repair all of my other gear to 100%, because basically what I'm trying to do here is show you the warmest that you can be with the best protections and that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that all my other gear was up to 100%, and that gear is not going to change for the test. The gear that is going to change for the test is the coats. And with the bearskin coat, you can see clearly that we've already got a 4 degrees Celsius warmer gear set here. And that makes perfect sense for somebody playing Interloper, because you're not going to be traveling long distances with heavy things like you might on a Voyager difficulty, or for some people even Stalker, where you're trying to get things back to a central location. You're more doing the survival as you go kind of thing with Loper, and I can see why people would want to do this. The issue that I've got with this one is that it does come up quite a bit heavier, and look, it's not exactly where it should be. It should be at 38.99, but look, a boy's got to eat and drink, you know? So we're pretty close to where we ought to be as far as that. But it was about a 3 kilo difference, which is a little bit strange because the wolf coats actually weigh 3 kilos. Bear coats weigh 5. It should have been a 4 kilo difference, but it wasn't. Maybe that's some type of thing I have for having level 5 on something. But the thing that I wasn't really watching at all are these two numbers over here. And that's the 80% waterproofness that this offers, as well as the 15% defense. I'd really never put in much stock or taken much stock into looking at these numbers, but seeing as how we kept getting just soaked and almost frozen over at Sundered Pass, this number was suddenly becoming more important to me. And like I said, the thing that I don't really much care for is just that it's a little heavier. but you can't deny that it's up in protection, it's up in warmth, and really the only thing is you can't sprint quite as far, but it's a pretty good gear set. When I tried on the double Moose Hide Cloak, I kind of saw immediately why people don't much like this. It's not nearly as warm as the other setups. The warmth bonus is only up to 29 degrees Celsius, but if I'm being honest here, that's only 1 degree above double wolf coat, and it is 2 kilos heavier than wolf coats, but it has other benefits. We'll talk about that in a second. And typically in my regular gear, I don't walk around with all this stuff at 100% very often. I'm usually pretty easily running between 25C warmth bonus to say 28. It's pretty regular in that wolf gear that I'm down to that, and I don't really have much trouble in lower Great Bear. The thing though is that this is a couple of kilos lighter than the bear. It's not as light as the wolf, but the things that make this more attractive is that it's got 90% waterproofness. And I think that was what I was really looking for when it came to Sundered Pass, because like I said, I was constantly, not necessarily blizzard type storms, but constantly getting caught up in storms. And the other thing I love about this, and this is why I'd be willing to sacrifice the 2 kilos for peace of mind, is that this brings our total protection up to the highest we've seen yet at 47%. That's 5% more than bear, and it's 8% more than wolf. So I don't know. I mean, I think this thing actually deserves a better look from some folks, because even though it's not as warm as some other gear, it does have other things that make it worthwhile to at least take a peek at. And that's kind of what got me going into the hybrid setups. And let's not worry about weight anymore for a minute. We're going to start kind of mixing coats and see what happens. All right, so I kind of fibbed about the weight thing because it is kind of important when we're talking about weight to warmth and protections and that kind of thing. So we're going to kind of keep a cursory look at the weight. But the first one I wanted to try here was the Moose Hide Cloak on the outside with the bear coat on the inside. And this brought us up 3 degrees Celsius, which is pretty nice, just in the warmth bonus. So that's going to put us over just double wolf coat. We have the same windproof as the wolf coats, but our protection stays the same, even though our protection was 5% lower with double bear. So I'm wondering now at this point, is the protection mainly geared towards your actual outer layer of everything? And that's where you get your percentage stat from. And this also kind of brought down our sprint, but look, it's 43%. Unless you're really trying to get away from 10Bs or something like that, that's more than enough to kind of get yourself into a spot. So, and this is what I ended up going with, and I wish that I'd looked at the next one a little bit closer. When I tested all of this stuff on stream, I'm pretty sure I looked at this particular setup. And if you guys want to come watch the long run that we're on now, I do that over on Twitch. The link's in the description. It's totally free to come over there. We're there for now. We may be coming back to YouTube for streaming. Let me know in the comments where you guys watch your streams if you do. Because I'd like to come back to YouTube to keep everything in one place, but I hate making a thumbnail for every stream that I want to do. But that's neither here nor there. We're looking at this particular setup, and yes, on the surface, it's not as warm as wearing the bear coat underneath, and that's what I saw like immediately. And I also didn't take into account that this is actually going to be a little bit lighter than having that bear coat. I mean, obviously it's going to be lighter, but I didn't really take that into consideration. But we're not losing a whole lot. Yes, we are losing a little warmth, but again, warmth wasn't really the big problem we had in Sundered Pass. It was that we kept getting just soaked from the horrible weather. I mean, seriously, the weather there makes Pleasant Valley look like Little Mary sunshine. And by wearing it this way, we're still getting an 11 degrees Celsius windproof bonus. Our protection stays at 47%, and we're almost 50% on our sprint at 48, which means if we're trying to get away from a pack of timber wolves or something, we can maybe get to shelter a little bit quicker because we don't have to wait for stamina to recharge. So again, you sacrifice a little warmth, you get a little bit of an extra kilo of carry weight, and it's probably would have been the best trade-off. And that's because getting home was an absolute slog, man. Like, it took an hour for me to walk back from Transfer Pass, get back through Railroad, get back through Forlorn, and luckily going back through Forlorn had already killed off the 2 bears, so we knew we could walk straight through. Really wasn't too big of a threat there, or it might have even taken longer than the hour. And granted, we're carrying 4 ropes here in this clip, and that's a lot. That's 20 extra kilos of carry weight across that distance. So, you know, a kilo or 2 here or there can actually make a difference when it comes to your gear versus what you're trying to accomplish in the game. When I went to make my final trip to actually carry 5 ropes, I ended up going with 2 of these, the Expedition Parkas. And I think this is also good because some people don't have the crafted gear yet, or you're just early in a run. And if you can find one of these, get it repaired. This thing offers a 4-degree warmth bonus, and it's 50% waterproof. Now, it's not as good as, say, the Wolf Coat. It's 60%, but it's just as warm, and it's actually half the weight. So not a bad way to go about saving a few things. And if you can mitigate the weight versus the protection and the warmth, you know, by all means do that, especially if you're in a good cloth place, because this does take cloth to repair. Another thing you could do is either wear snow pants for those of you guys that are on the lower difficulties. I know these don't appear in the higher ones, but the snow pants are excellent because, again, they're a full kilo lighter than the deer pants, but they don't offer as much waterproofness as you would think snow pants would at only 50%. But I digress. You could either wear double snow pant or just put snow pants underneath and save yet another kilo of weight and get a little more water protection. It just depends on how you want to play. And wouldn't you know it, I step outside to do my outro, and guess what? There's a blizzard in Pleasant Valley. I know, who knew? I still don't think the weather patterns here are as bad as they are in Sundered Pass, but I'll tell you, man, a lot of people don't like PV because of this. I've just kind of gotten used to it over the time that I've been here. But it does kind of bring me to the conclusion of the video, which is, again, asking the community, why do you guys think that the Moose Hide Cloak is being so overlooked? Because, yes, it's not as warm, and I get that. It's just a little bit heavier than, say, a wolf coat. But the other benefits it gives you, are we even paying attention to those? Do those even matter? Or is the Long Dark simply about staying as warm as you possibly can and going from location to location where you can dry out and not have to worry about that so much? And maybe only worry about the defense numbers when you're going into a Timberwolf region like Blackrock or Bleak or Sundered. So I don't know. I'm genuinely asking the question because so many have come before me that know so much more. But I do like bringing you guys the numbers. And if you like watching that type of stuff where we're trying to figure things out, maybe make your gameplay a little bit smoother, subscribe to the channel because I do have more Long Dark stuff coming up as well as some more No Man's Sky. It's been a fun ride thus far, and I love making these kind of videos. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.